Welcome back to Flight Pass. My name's Simon, and you are watching the series on Waterloo. What we have below us here, surrounded by these blue lines, is the area of the campaign on the 16th of June 1815. We've got below us here the crossroads of Quatre. We're facing east, and at the other corner of the triangle here is the battlefield of Ligny, where the Prussians would meet the French, and the apex in the southerly direction, you've got Charleroi, with the direction that the French have come from. We've been discussing the events up to this point. In summary, we've been looking at the news and how the news has been reaching Brussels, which you can see in the horizon up there to the north. Back in I think it was the 1847. There was a letter sent from Major von Gerwein. He sent a letter to Seibon. Now, Seibon was the subject of this book here. I know this is probably backwards, but this is by a guy called Peter Hofschroer. I really recommend it. It's called Wellington's Smallest Victory. Seibon was an officer in the British Army, and he was commanded to recreate a model of the Battle of Waterloo, and he picked the time when I think the old guard was going up the ridge in the late in the evening on the 18th, and he was writing around to lots of people asking basically what they recalled from that time. And von Gerwein writes to Seibon in 1847, and he says that he produced proof that Wellington had received news of the outbreak of the campaign from General Zieten at 9 a.m. on the 15th of June, and that according to a guy, that message had been sent by Zieten at around about 4 o'clock in the morning. Wellington had confirmed its arrival, and he'd sent a letter to the Duke de Quatre in Ghent that evening, and that was published in his dispatches. And he wrote in that, he said, "I received the news that the enemy attacked this morning at Thuin on the Sambre and is appearing to menace Charleroi. And I have received nothing since 9 a.m. this morning from Charleroi." But he does receive, we don't know when he wrote that or when he said that. And I think there's messages going around, because there is the reputed message from the Prince of Orange's headquarters that he receives. But regardless of the timings of all these messages, there's been an argument about, was Wellington slow to react? And the key thing is, of course, he writes in his letter to Ghent saying they are appearing to menace. And, at the end of the day, he's probably getting messages from everywhere all the time. He can't commit his troops until he knows exactly what the just where ATC seems to be on, but he can't commit his troops until he knows exactly what's going on. And this is where Napoleon's reputation precedes him. He knows that it's Napoleon likes to do feints, and he's fearing that a feint from Charleroi means that he'll commit troops down to Quatre, and actually the main thrust will come from the Mons area. But in a certain sense, what happens is, because when he receives the message from Blucher in the evening that the Prussians are going to concentrate down here at Sombref, it kind of forces Wellington's hand, because it's by Blucher going ahead and concentrating on Sombref, it's exposing the Prussians to be attacked without the backup of Wellington. So he has to force his reinforcements down the Brussels Charleroi road. So and remember, at the time, Wellington was getting a lot of reports of sightings of Napoleon, and one of them, the sightings, was from a place called Maubeuge. So if we pull out a bit and go back to this map here, we know eventually Napoleon will be crossing the border between Beaumont and Ham-sur-Heure, going towards Charleroi. But Wellington was receiving reports just a few days earlier that Napoleon was at this place called Maubeuge. and in fact, it's believed that Napoleon was aware of Wellington's contacts in Paris, his spies, and was feeding them this information prior to the campaign. So this information that he might possibly be in Maubeuge makes the possibility that he was going to come through Mons. And so Wellington definitely did not want to concentrate down here at Quatre Bras when he should be concentrating in Nivelles. And this is why his very first order was for the troops in these cantons to the southwest to go to their pre-designated concentration points, and one of them being Nivelles. And so we got a number of orders written, and his one, it was Lieutenant Colonel Sir William Gom of the 2nd Foot Guards. He was the assistant quartermaster to the 5th Division, and he says, during the night of the 15th, the 4 divisions of the army covering the frontier from Mons to Ypres and beyond these fortresses received orders to concentrate about their prospective headquarters at Oudenarde, Grammont, Enghien, Halle, and the cavalry at Ninove, but the whole to wait all orders before moving. So when we talk about that sort of spread, we've got we're looking at well, the Mons is here, You've got Engheim is to the south southwest of Brussels. Ath is again southwest. So they're all being told to get ready, but you can see that the spread here is a long way to the west of the actual attack route of the French. Let's Emperor, he arrives at Charleroi. We're talking around about 12 o'clock. It's believed he was greeted with cheers of Vive l'Empereur, but I think we've seen in the past that the populations tend to be a little bit fickle. He goes to an inn which affords views down the Sambre. Now we know this is likely to be the chateau here where he stays, so presumably he has some sort of views down these down the river, and he promptly falls asleep outside. Oh, sorry, I didn't get rid of that. He promptly falls asleep outside the inn. So we know that, as I say, this is the chateau here, probably this area here, and he's sitting on this river bank, looking down the river Sambre. It's a nice day, and he falls asleep. He's been up since 3 o'clock in the morning. And he has been reportedly suffering from bouts of drowsiness. Whatever that means medically, we don't really know. But he was definitely not as fit as he used to be. So 3:30, Ney arrives at Charleroi. And this is where Napoleon gives Ney command of basically a wing of his army. Ney is a undoubtedly brave soldier. He's unrivaled in his ability to rally troops. He's been a hero of Borodino, but he has a flaw when it comes to a strategic awareness. Napoleon is aware of his faults, I think, in that department, but because Ney is so pivotal in his coming to power, we spoke about his going across to Napoleon just prior to his entry into Paris. Napoleon calls Ney up late. He feels guilty that he's leaving this hero of France brooding in his chateau. But he therefore gives him the control of the left wing. And he does this because he needs to control the crossroads at Quatre. He needs to hinder basically the two allied armies from being able to communicate with each other. And to do this, he gives Ney the control of the 1st and 2nd Corps. So we're talking the left flank of the army, Rail's Corps and the Erlon's Corps. And he gives them a section of cavalry, the cavalry division of Lefebvre Desnouds. Probably murdering that one, but yeah, he gives him that cavalry unit as well. So 2 corps, you're looking at probably 1/3 of the army is going with Ney up to this junction here, the Quatre junction. Grouchy he's given the command of the right wing. He's got the 3rd and 4th Corps, and he's charged with pushing the Prussians back on Sombref. We know that Napoleon isn't happy with that pace of that push back, and actually rides ahead to give Grouchy the hurry along. But more concerning was that Ney was not proceeding as quickly as he should be. And the reason for this is many, but one of them is that he gets his command late. He only understands what his job is late in the afternoon of this day, the 15th. And he seems to be lacks a little bit of sort of momentum, urgency about him. He would drive the Prussians out of Gazelles. Eventually, but this is only 3.5 miles from Charleroi. And once he does this, he halts his infantry, and of course now it would have been obvious to most people, if he had a strategic awareness, if Napoleon had told him of what the plan was, that the crossroads at Quatre was of urgency. Because if he could control this crossroads, he would be blocking the communication between the British and the Prussians. This crossroads here was very significant. It's believed that the orders were clear. At this one, they were categorical. The need to capture this crossroads, and we know that there wasn't really a huge force up here. That it wasn't something that he was being asked to do. That wasn't expected to be achieved. He had each part of his army was in supporting distance of himself. There wasn't really any excuses in that way. And so the delay cannot really be explained. Back in Brussels, we're talking about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. 4 o'clock in the afternoon, reports start coming in quick succession. We start to get dispatches from Zeiton in Charleroi. Blücher starts reporting and passing on his information. That starts arriving. Wellington's starting getting information from the Prince of Orange's headquarters, and he's received information from Mons. All of them are basically a little bits of a jigsaw puzzle, but it's clear that the First Corps of Zeiton is under attack at Charleroi. Initial conflict area is being reported as being south of the Lobe, of the Sombre, around Lobes, Thuin, and Binche, and that's a significant thing, because if we go back and have a look at, let's get the map up now. Binche is an interesting report, because it was attacked, and it was probably deliberately attacked. Remember, D'Erlon had moved up this road, here from his position at on the Sambre at Solre. He moved up here to Binche, but you can see that this position here is very close to Mons. So from a perspective of Wellington looking at a map the other way round, yes, we know that this is the left flank of the French, but this could also be the central column, and the attack on Charleroi is more the right-hand column, and so therefore there could be an attack on Mons with his left column. Or even the Binche attack is with his French right column, right flank, and that there is a main thrust coming from Maubeuge to Mons, which is coincides with the reports that Wellington was receiving at the time. So you can see why Wellington is very cautious about where he goes. In terms of distances, I spoke about the messengers, and let's be a messenger. So the distance between Charleroi and Brussels is around about 32 miles. And for the day, this road was in good condition. Did a bit of research on horse riding and messengers in between. So we'll follow the route that a messenger would take to go from Charleroi to Brussels. This route would normally take a good rider about 3 hours to ride. So we know that the initial attack, if Zaidun had sent his orders at around about his message at around about 4 o'clock, he should be Wellington should be receiving those orders. Messengers at around about 8 o'clock in the morning. Wellington later on, when he hears this, he actually says that Zieten must have sent the fattest man in the Prussian army, because he mentions that it takes him about 11 hours to arrive, and so there seems to be some sort of confusion here about the messages that is sent. Or it could be that Wellington is covering his back when it comes to the order of the messages that arrive, or it was the fact that 2 messages arrived and 1 was late. There was probably sometimes messages were carried by more than 1 messenger. We don't know. But there was supposed to be a message arrived by Blücher as well at the same time as this other message arrived, and it's doubtful whether Wellington would have reacted to the first message anyway. There's a guy. This guy here, this is Husset, Henri Husset, who wrote, I think it's late in the 19th century. He believes that Wellington had received the message at 9 a.m. and had chosen to deny it for his own, save his own sort of reputation. And that is possibly true. Jack Weller, he's another historian, believes that he didn't receive that message because he believed that Wellington would have reacted quicker to it. And we know that Wellington was perfectly capable of changing some details to suit his narrative, and I personally fall down on the side of that he had received the message, but it was only one message at the time. It didn't probably it didn't sway Wellington. He was probably more likely to have to. His own cautious nature meant that he would probably not act on one message. He would wait for another one just to make sure. One of the I think, knowing Wellington, his likely action would be first of all caution. He's always been that sort of person. He wouldn't probably run head first at the first sign of an attack. He was probably cautious. He hadn't faced Napoleon, but he probably knew about his reputation, so he was cautious that this was a feint. That's kind of it. And then later on, he probably like knowing he was probably that sort of ego thing. He goes, "I didn't get that message. I didn't react slowly." I think there was a lot of beef between the Prussian and the British Army, Wellington especially, and Gneisenau. That sort of tension probably meant that there was these sort of accusations rolling around. So yeah, it's one of those things. I think he's unlikely. He's maybe. I think Wellington is sitting here. He's waiting for confirmation that is this the main thrust. We don't know, and if you receive a message from a corps commander, he won't act on that. For the sake of a few hours, it would be better to move people in the right direction rather than sending everyone in the wrong direction. But when he hears that Blucher has ordered the concentration forwards up here at Sombref, that then forces his hand, and he then starts immediately sending the troops down this way, because he knows if he's concentrating down there, then that's likely to be a trigger for Napoleon to attack him. And got to remember as well at this time that information that Zieten had passed on to Blucher, that there was campfires seen to the south of Charleroi, down at Thuin, and that information hadn't been passed on to Wellington, so he wasn't aware of that part of the puzzle at the time. Um, and I thought, let me just finish this section here with an interesting take on the Prussian build-up. We're talking um, orders were sent out for the concentration of Sombre, and these orders were sent by Gneisenau. Gneisenau. He took responsibility for sending these orders out. And the interesting thing about this is where he stood in the ranks. Now, of course, the First Corps is ahead of him anyway, so that's fine. Zieten had his orders to slow up the French back to Sombre. The orders that Gneisenau sends to the Second and Third Corps of the Prussian army are issued in a manner that is direct. There's no mincing of his words. It's like, get your corps to here. And that was because even Gneisenau is the chief of staff, as it were, to Blucher, and he also outranked those corps commanders. But when it came to the Fourth Corps, we're talking about a guy called Bulow. And Bulow was actually outranked Gneisenau. And so the nature of the orders to him is a little bit more respectful. Bulow was a senior to Gneisenau, so he was a bit more sort of let's say a little bit more respectful to him. But it meant that his orders were a little bit ambiguous. And what that meant was that the orders sent to Bulow didn't convey the urgency of the situation, and which meant that Bulow's Fourth Corps would remain in Liège until the morning of the 15th, and wouldn't move out until then. So, and there is a sleepiness going on there. Now, Bulow received an order, 2 orders, to be honest. And the first order was to march from Liège, which is here, west to this town called Hanut. And that distance there is about 25 miles. Those orders for him to move from Liège to Hanut do not mention that the enemy has crossed the border or is at hand. Now, Liège itself is actually probably where this number 4 is the Sombre. It's only halfway to the concentration point, which is 50 miles. So there should have been a greater degree of urgency involved if they wanted to get Bulow's corps to the concentration point in time. You could argue it was worded differently because they didn't even expect Bulow's corps to arrive there. Hanut would be a best place to get to, probably, or realistic place for them to get to, and then they could go from Hanut to Brussels if they had to retreat. The result of all of this, though, is that the Fourth Corps would only reach Hanut by midday on the 16th. Okay, so that is the end of this section. When we come back, we'll carry on talking about what was known. It's just important that we get a good insight into the mindset of these people, and then we can get into the nitty gritty. So when we come back, I just check my notes. We've got we're going to get to just discuss a little bit more about why Ney didn't have any urgency about him as well, and then we can look into the actual battles themselves. So hopefully that's been interesting. We will be back in the next episode. We will look at the continued build-up of troops in this area here, with this triangle is. And so if you're watching on Twitch, I'll be back in a second, and if you're watching on YouTube, I'll see you in the next one.